Protections.
The Green Route merch available now on sourkidsmerch.com.
Due to suggestive adult themes and dialogue, this podcast is intended for adults. In other words, the truth is ugly, so we get ugly right along with it. Everything we say is out of love for ourselves, our people, and our community. Sincerely, the Green Route Podcast. I want to welcome y'all back to the Green Route Podcast. I am GS.
And I'm Marlissa. What's up, y'all?
All right, y'all. So it's been some things in the news, so we're going to jump right on in.
Right.
All right, so the first and foremost, we're going to be short and sweet with this one. Hunter Biden is guilty.
On all three.
Joe Biden's son has been found guilty on those counts. It's a few points I'm gonna make, but before I make those points, Mel, what you think about that?
It's so funny. People were like, "How you feeling about Hunter Biden?" Bitch, if he broke the law, he broke the law. Like, I don't. Let me be clear. I am not a gang member. Okay, I don't belong to either party. My vote goes to who can fit our agenda as Black people and as a Black woman. So yeah, if he broke the law, which he did, and we knew that he did, because remember they tried to cut him a deal earlier and then that shit fell through. It is a historic year. For the first time, we have a former president who is convicted of criminal charges. And the first time also we have a president's son or child, I should say, son or daughter, who is now a convicted felon.
So yeah. when stories like this go back to the root of the Green Route. When we talk about how America is ghetto, this is an example of it. Yeah. So we have Joe Biden, who has a son who smoked crack on camera. Let's be clear. That means that you have to have been doing it a lot for it to get caught on camera.
Yeah, I think he was in his drawers too.
And he was in his drawers, and he had a few prostitutes.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to laugh. It just keeps
all respect to the sex workers. Let's be clear. Yes. All respect to the sex workers.
That was not I just pictured the video and was like, everything about this continues to get worse.
You see how layers. See the layer there?
Yes.
My point is, all of these respectability politics that America tries to set up, that a lot of us have been indoctrinated into, we realize that it's the president has a crackhead son who has gun charges. Now, if we take Joe Biden out of this and we just put our uncle, our auntie, somebody, family member, somebody, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, we just like, yeah, this shit, yeah, this is, but now we can now accept it as the norm. I don't want to hear any more issues with our family members who have substance abuse problems or gun charges. This is the norm. If our family members happen to fall into that, we can't look at them too terribly because our president
and look at the way he reacted to his own child. He was like, my son has a problem. This is an illness. It is a sickness. So remember that when we start talking about these people who okayed the war on drugs that fucked up a lot of our elders and the people above our generation. And let's be clear.
And let's for sure hang our hat right there. I don't wish for anyone. We don't wish for anyone to go to jail. We all agree that incarceration or being a part of this, caught up in this judicial system is not good for the most part. But at the same time, we also argue that people should keep the same energy. That's right. And if you stood up, Joseph Biden, if you stood up,
middle name?
I don't know what the hell his middle name is, but
look it up.
It's something. It's something. It's like Joseph Robin Biden. I think. My point is, for a man, again, back in the 90s, to have stood up and to say things like he does not care how our youth, the teens within our communities, became to be the way that they are. They should be locked up. Those were his words. This is what he said. So when he talks this talk about, my son is dealing with the problem, addiction, and these are, real issues, he's not wrong. But at the same time, he needs to understand that the same energy that he wanted for our children back then, that same energy, he needs to keep that same one, that same kind. So if our children had to go to jail, no matter what was the situation that caused them to do whatever they did, his son deserves the same thing. And we're not for jail, but we want that continuity. We want the continuity of your perspective to continue. We don't want you to contradict yourself, Joe.
Yep.
We want you to stand firm on your beliefs that people who have addiction problems and people who have suffered as a result,
lock them up.
Lock them up.
And he had a gun.
Oh yeah, and he had a gun. Yeah. So
I want to point out one thing. For all the people who were in my inbox saying that they were happy Biden was charged with a felony, I just want to point out that means in essence you are pro gun control.
That's an excellent point, because that's I think what we have to understand is this: there are a lot of Republicans, there are a lot of people who are on the right side, there are a lot of people who are quote unquote not on any side, but they are also happy that he potentially could go to jail off of gun charges. Now, let's be clear, specifically to our Republican folks on that side, or people who are on that side,
our NRA enthusiasts.
What you're saying is that you are for some amount of gun control. That's what you're saying. Yep. If you think that he needs to go to jail for possessing a gun illegally or having any kind of discrepancies with him possessing one,
that's it.
Yeah, you are for gun control, and I need y'all to be just as loud when that occurs on the other side.
Yep.
Matter of fact, we need it to be just as loud when anyone is found guilty within the court, including your leaders as well,
and their children. Yeah.
So let's just continuity. Let's just keep it the same thing. We just
black people never wanted special treatment. We just wanted to be treated fair.
We just wanted fairness. We wanted.
People don't want special treatment. They just want to be treated fair.
Yeah.
This is what we are asking for. The same shit that y'all did back in the 80s with crack, locking people up. I need y'all to keep that same energy. And the same way that y'all say, hey, I don't think anybody should have to fill out a form to possess a gun, then you should be highly upset that Hunter Biden was convicted. And one of those felonies, by the way, is him lying on a federal form saying that he was not addicted to a substance, an illegal substance, to procure said gun. So that is actually one of the felonies that he's being charged with.
Because that is a question that they ask you. Have you had substance issues as it pertains to the law? And he did. So, all right, y'all. So summing it up, let's be very clear here. If you wanted people to go to jail, again, actually, this is us going towards both sides. For our Democratic friends, he did the crime. He must do the time. That's what our democratically elected leader said. That's what he said back then,
black and white,
as it pertains to drugs and guns and all that. That's
3 strikes law.
So that's for them. For our Republican friends, clearly you do believe in gun control, and keep on pushing it. Keep on pushing for him to be punished for illegally attaining guns.
That's it.
So
that's it. I would love for the NRA to step into this and be like, no, that would be a plot twist.
That would be a plot twist.
Man.
All
anyway, we're not sure when he's going to be sentenced, but it'll probably be after Trump's sentencing. So a lot going on this election season. What else we got?
All right. We are, of course, going back to Palestine, free Palestine.
Yes.
As of right now, the UN has unanimously voted on a ceasefire plan. The only people that wasn't a part of that plan was Russia. They abstained. But everyone, this is something that the US put together. Hamas has even come out in support of it, as long as it leads to a permanent ceasefire.
Yep.
So we have basically everybody on one side except for one.
Guess who that is? You think they guessed?
I'm pretty sure they already knew. So Israel, the state of Israel, is hasn't responded. Of course, America, as Israel apologists, they have come out to say that that Israel is strongly considering. It was something to that effect that they were speaking again after a conversation with Netanyahu. And it's just one of those things where it's like, damn, y'all really are wiping Israel's ass. Like y'all are doing. I don't like.
Yeah.
Y'all have. I mean, they've pulled out all the stops, to gaslight us. Honestly, that's really what it is. To gaslight us into believing that Israel is operating on some level of plausible humanity, which they are not. It's all interesting because I don't believe anything that comes out of the U.S.'s mouth until they actually stop sending the money, till they actually stop sending them guns. All of this stuff that they've tried to do, make statements about them being a moral army, create a whole pier, building up a whole pier so that they can deliver things, aid via boats.
Mm-hmm.
They can drop stuff from the sky. All of these things that they have talked about that they've done to help the people of Palestine, everything except the main thing, which is arming and supplying funding for weapons to the Israeli government.
That's right.
They're doing everything except stopping that. And that's the thing that's causing the killing.
Yeah, I mean, as excited as I was to finally hear Joe Biden, and he didn't really lay out the plan, but
No.
there is I guess a blanket understanding that this plan was very similar to a plan that had already been put on the table and that was denied.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if, like, when he made the announcement, I was like, is this America playing savior? Because we already spoke about this. Like, what are we talking about? And every ceasefire deal that was put on the table, y'all like fucking went in there and used your veto power to get rid of.
Right.
So it was kind of weird when I even like saw Biden's speech about it. But then I was like, okay, well, maybe he's like, yo, I can't afford to keep funding your war. Who knows? Who knows what was happening on the Hill, you know, in the White House, whatever. So they put this deal out there, right? It goes to the UN Security Council. It passes. Now, mind you, the United States was the only country that was vetoing these deals with the Security Council in the first place. So it passes. Russia abstains, as you said. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, what's in the deal? Now, that was something they are very tight-lipped about thus far. We know it's a three-phase proposal, I believe. And some of the past ceasefire proposals, it was like, you know, a pause in the fighting, and it may be a 2-week pause or something like that. And then we'll trade hostages for prisoners and get aid in, stuff like that. I'm sure all of that has something to do with it. And then like some of the other phases had to do with, you know, a full withdrawal of Israeli troops, from Gaza and also from the West Bank. You get the rest of your hostages, we get the rest of our prisoners, blah, blah, blah. We begin to rebuild. And so Hamas apparently came out. They didn't come out. They've been saying we want a ceasefire, but like you said, as long as it leads to a permanent, we don't want to pause in the fighting. And that was one of the issues in the UN, was the language kept saying like a permanent ceasefire, and Israel was like, no, we want a pause. We don't want like a permanent thing. So today we hear that Hamas had offered a response, and apparently there were some changes that they wanted made. But I think part of that is it probably says something like a temporary pause in fighting rather than a permanent ceasefire. It probably wasn't enough prisoners for hostages, because that's another thing they've been playing them on.
I know one addition to the language is reparations. That was my first time hearing. That was my first time hearing it this week.
I love that.
They were talking about reparations for Palestinians who clearly weren't Hamas, because I mean that. Also for the lives lost, property damage, all of that. So
they have to rebuild that whole place.
I mean,
the whole thing has to be gutted and rebuilt.
So, because let's be very clear about one of the goals of Israel. One of the goals is for sure to take the land.
That's it.
They want all
the
of it.
Front, yeah.
Again, that's what they want. So, of course, in my mind, they're not going to agree to anything that doesn't allow them to have that. A part of one of our, I mean, we can bring it in now, but a part of our topics today was also the fact that we're finding out that there are more Americans who are buying up properties in West Bank or Israel. People who are part of the Israeli real estate programs out there are opening up opportunities for Americans and anyone else who is of quote unquote Jewish descent.
We heard Jared Kushner say it on camera. He was like, oh, Gaza. He was like, beautiful, just beachfront properties. Bitch, people are under rubble there, and you're talking about
the blood hasn't even dried up, and you're talking about beachfront properties.
Yes.
So it was funny because before we even started the show, one of the first articles we pulled, the headline was record number
Mhm.
of property seizing, or how do you
I think it was land seizures.
land seizures,
Yeah.
property land seizures record number in West Bank.
Bragging about it.
How much sense does that make?
Yeah.
Like yeah, it's we know that they're bragging about it. We feel like, but it's like from our perspective, it's like y'all motherfuckers are crazy. Like, is that really something that needs to be put out? The fact, like, at a time like this, when it's on camera that you all are bombing, terrorizing these groups, and then for something like that to come out, I would have thought that would have been one of the things that they would have been like,
Hey,
this
shut up
shouldn't
about
be-
that.
Yeah, this shouldn't
Yeah.
really, people really shouldn't know.
But
you
they've
know.
been outed too on social media, and that is we know why they want to shut TikTok down, because we were able to share information with each other. But this there was a Palestinian man that was on his land that he said was in his family for generations, and 2 Israeli settlers rolled up on him and was pretty much telling him to leave. He was like, "No, I'm not leaving. Like, my father lived here, my grandfather, my great grandfather. Like, this is our land." So they were pretty much like telling him like, "Hey, get your shit and get out of here." So he you can hear his commentary. He continues to have like B-roll or whatever, and he's saying like, this is how it happens, y'all. Like, the military is going to show up. They're going to call the police and, see if they can fix this dispute, and the military will end up saying that this has been seized for military use. And what will happen is they'll make them leave and then turn it over to the settlers. And so as soon as you read that headline, I was just like, that's probably a good portion of how it's happening. They use eminent domain, America, and will say, hey, we need this for something, right? We're going to build a freeway, or we're, going to put a power generation plant or something that's going to be federally owned or military use or something like that. And then what'll happen is they'll end up turning it over to the people who wanted that property in the first place. So literally, like, leveraging the police force and the state against people at the lower level of the caste in order really to solidify that you ain't shit here.
Right.
And that people that look like this have any right they want, as long as it's you whose rights are being taken.
It makes me think about if let's be clear, there's nothing new under the sun that's happening over there. Everything that they're doing or have done in some way, shape, or form, Black people in America have experienced it here. We've seen it. So when you say stuff like that, or when you bring up instances like that, it makes me think about Dred Scott, a man who went to court to say, hey, you know what, I actually have won the right to be free. And as a result, this man is violating my civil rights, trying to re-enslave me. And then for the judge, the American judicial system, to come back and say, as a Black man, you have no rights that we have to respect. That's exactly what's happening in these situations. You have military groups that will come in and will kind of be the counselors in the situation. And at the end of it, will tell the Palestinians that you have no rights that we have to respect, that we're bound to respect. Yeah. And it's been happening, and it keeps on happening. Yeah. So
if y'all haven't number one read Isabel Wilkerson's book Caste, it is a fantastic study, and she goes to India, she studies America, India and America, and Germany, the Jewish experience in Germany. And what she does is she takes race out of the equation, because she was like, well, Jewish people are pretty much white. And the Germans still found a way to create a caste. And then the same thing with India, right? They're all Indian, but you have the Dalits there. And so if you haven't read that, an amazing book that I think helps us definitely take race out of it and realize that the whole goal is just to have a subservient group of people. And they can look like, if Black people got wiped off the face of the earth right now, white people would find let me not say white people would find another reason to create caste. It could be you're too short, or your hair's too dark, or your eyes are blue, or whatever. The second thing I'll say is, if y'all haven't seen the movie Origin, Ava DuVernay just did a movie for Hulu. It's on Hulu. And it actually follows Isabel Wilkerson's journey to write the book Caste. And so you actually get to kind of experience it through Isabel Wilkerson's eyes, like her studies in Germany and in the United. And this started after Trayvon Martin got murdered.
Mhm.
And she was like, it wasn't race. It was, why would a Latino man deputize himself in America to keep another person of another group in line? Like, what makes him think that a Latino man has the right to do that? And that's where she took race out of it. She was like, it's about caste. So I would recommend both of those things if y'all are interested in kind of studying this dynamic, because it's not, like Gia said, it's not just an American thing. We see this with groups all over the world, and it will continue to happen until we like actually educate ourselves on why this bullshit happens.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%.
So yeah.
Well, I've never watched the movie or seen the book.
It just came out.
But okay, yeah, we have to
if
check
you got
that out.
Hulu, I would say, and honestly, she did such a good job. If you watch the movie,
That's pretty much
the
a lot
book
of
is pretty much just gonna be
very
like
similar.
for style.
Okay.
So it is like Ava DuVernay. You could tell she studied that book front and back because
To
she
make
did a
that.
fantastic job with the movie. Yeah.
No, I had an Indian. One of my roommates was Indian in college, and so in India, the caste system is a very real thing.
Very strong.
And the
yeah.
caste system is something that people create when they can't use race, because again, in India, it was them they created this caste system amongst each other, and it was very harmful to them.
I like what you
So-
just said. It's implemented when race can't be an issue. And that's kind of what happened with Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. Like, you have two minorities here.
Mhm.
Even though Zimmerman kind of passed a little
He could have
bit.
passed as
Like-
yeah, but white people would have looked at him like,
Right.
you're
So we would say, like, oh, he ain't regular white. It's something else
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on
we-
there.
yeah,
Like,
that's it.
so like, as she explains it in the book, I'm just like, oh shit, because I also was just perplexed at why you would look at another minority but y'all, affirmative action.
Mhm.
We just saw Asian Americans be used and weaponized against Black people and saying they're taking our spots at Harvard.
You know what? First of all, this leads over into our next topic.
Yes.
This leads over into our next topic, which happens to do with a federal with a grant program or with a group that was seeking to use grant money specifically for Black women. So what Mel is talking about with respect to the collegiate process, there were Asians who allowed themselves to be used as it's a specific word that I'm looking for. I can't think of that specific word, but in that program or in that process, Black people for years, since we've been allowed into non-historically Black institutions. I'm not trying not to center whiteness no more. We have been battling to gain access to these spaces because these spaces are federally funded. Again, we're not talking about that we're not talking about privately owned stuff. We're talking about federally funded programs that we should be a part of, and Asians were used as the face of breaking that part down.
Yeah.
So what we've learned is that they'll use anyone or any way that they can to stop it. So, for example, I think depending on how winnable it is for them, that lets us know whether or not they'll use a cover girl or a cover man or
and
a cover
that's what
group.
They needed in that, because
In that
Abby
situation.
down at
UT.
UT,
Yeah.
she wasn't gonna work. It was just like a white girl kind of crying wolf.
Yeah.
But they,
So they use a model minority group.
There it is, the model minority.
They
Yep.
use the model minority. And let's be clear, the model minority idea is racist. Them using that is racist. That's what they ran on, and they used it and it worked. So to our Asian followers, it's love, but that shit was some bullshit. Be clear.
And y'all are finding out that it's bullshit.
Yeah, because there have been a lot of Asian people who I've seen speak out against it, speak out against them being used for that purpose, or even just speak out against the idea that we don't need affirmative action to be more inclusive to groups, because again, historically, marginalized groups, minority groups have not had access to these things. So going to our Fearless Fund topic.
Yeah.
0.03% of all venture capitalist money has gone towards Black women. 0.03%. I found that out. I watched the interview from her, and that's what she talked about. And that's what her fight is. She's trying to fight to get more Black women exposure and access to that grant money.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening.
Yeah. So the same guy who was down at UT playing around and went to Washington, D.C. with our Asian cousins and got affirmative action overturned. Edward Bloom is his name. He then began to test whether or not he could use that same overturning of affirmative action to overturn other things like DEI programs and now the Fearless Fund. So the Fearless Fund, like Gia said, is a fund that is meant to help fund Black women-owned businesses. So the same way you see someone go over to Silicon Valley with an idea and a group of people will be like, oh, I'm gonna give you $5 million to start. That almost never happens for Black women. And so she created this space so that they could actually pitch to this fund and be able to get seed money for their companies, right? And we know that being an owner is how you build generational wealth, whether it is your company, whether it is your house, like those things build generational wealth, right? So they literally overturn it. Ben Crump ended up getting involved. That's how deep this got. And y'all know if Ben Crump get involved, it's a thing. Okay, he's kind of the premier civil rights lawyer of the country right now. So he ended up getting involved. A judge did rule that they had to shut down their operation or open it up so that anyone can go in and receive funding. But the problem is everyone else has a source of funding that they can go to. So it was always meant to create equity. It wasn't about like giving Black women a leg up. It was trying to at least give them a step on like the first step of the Eiffel Tower when people are already up here. That's all it was trying to do. So she, the founder of the fund, she's actually asking Joe Biden to take executive action to overturn the judge's ruling because, like me, she believes that it wasn't ever about creating inequality so that Black women can have special treatment. It was about creating equity in spaces where Black women have almost always been left out of. Yeah. So Biden, I don't even think has responded to the request for executive action, but this is what they call like a test case, y'all. So we've seen this with Edward Bloom. He's literally, that was 2 years ago, affirmative action got overturned, I think, 2 summers ago. We've seen him go to schools and say, hey, you can't have a DEI program or any office anymore. The congressional DEI office got shut down. That's how bad this is. And then the next thing was kind of going after these private spaces, right? So we're seeing this with the Fearless Fund in these financial spaces, but also I've heard rumor that we could very well see like the head of diversity and inclusion in publicly traded companies will cease to exist. Like diversity programs there will cease to exist. So you may not even be able to have like an ERG at and that's like an employee resource group, right? Which tends to service members of certain communities that work for a specific company. You may not even be able to have that. Edward Bloom's work will be to gut anything that services anyone minority that groups is not under him. And it's really about being centered, right? Like, that's what I'm realizing. Like, it's not that you want it to go away. It's just that we've decided to focus on something that's not you. And that's always been an issue for white America. Like when it's not about is it the ego? What is it?
We don't know. We just know what it is when we see it.
Yeah.
Like, so the thinking about this case, the prosecution, one of the points they make, and this is gonna be my last point to it, but one of the points that they made were 2 things. One, they don't want race to be involved at all. If it was up to them, we wouldn't even be using race as a means to connect resources to people.
But you use it to keep resources from people.
That's the point. That's it. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. They want to cherry pick and sound like we are the world, when the world that they have created has been very dysfunctional for a lot of people that don't look like them. Can we keep that, Ken? We gotta add that because that's exactly what this shit is. The other part that they made against them was they was like, this is just like, the whites only fountains. And I love her response, because
Jesus.
the response to that was this, and it was a very valid point. The difference between this fund and the whites only, the difference is one was seeking to create disparity and one is seeking to get rid of the disparity. Two different reasons.
And can I also say that whites only fountains were also implemented with violence, with murder, with people hanging on trees for dissent. Like, let's be very clear that her starting a fund that says I'm trying to correct the disparities that the shit that y'all was doing created is not the same, and I am offended that they would even pose that thought to her, given that people were literally murdered for trying to get a sip of water. No one is being murdered for applying to her fund.
So clearly they are making false, what do you call that? False
equivalencies.
False equivalencies. Mm-hmm. And this is a part of their argument, which is why I don't see how it's thrown out. But this is what we're dealing with. Again, we can have these conversations about black people needing to pull their bootstraps up, but just know the instant when whiteness or certain groups aren't centered in it, they cutting them strings.
The anniversary for Black Wall Street just passed, right? And this was black people pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. Literally that. They were creating businesses, like living amongst themselves, trading their dollars within their community. And because whiteness was not centered, y'all looked over and was like, hey, they got a good thing going over there. Let's go burn that shit down.
Exactly.
You cannot tell people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and you take the boots.
You don't even give everyone the same boots. You don't give everyone equal access to the strings. You don't give everyone. It's just, yeah. So y'all already know that. Y'all already kind of see what that issue is. So we're going to keep on thinking of and praying for that program, and we hope that people see it. And if they don't, you know what? We hope the money comes by another way, any other way that's necessary.
That was one of my questions that I proposed. We have an opportunity to interview the founder, by the way. And one of my questions was like, okay, you guys are on pause, but how do regular people help? Like, how do we help you continue your work? And so, because I genuinely want to know, like, if there's a campaign we need to start, if there is something that we need to do to make sure that these and I'm sure there are amazing businesses her group and her fund has run across. How can we make sure? Because I mean, I spend enough money on bullshit, right? If it means that I need to donate a few $100s every so often to ensuring that these women have the seed capital that they need, I'm here for it. So and if I find the answer, y'all, I will let you know. We'll make sure we post it.
We in full support of it. All right.
What we got? Rock Nation?
We got Rock Nation.
Let's talk about
All right. We're going to be brief on this one. So I'll say this. So in case you didn't know, there have been a lot of headlines going on or showing, Rock Nation gives $300 million to Philly schools. I saw that first and I was like, oh, that's dope. That's fire. That's really cool. But come to find out there's
and then
there's kind of more to the story than what meets the eye. Number one, $300 million is first of all, $300 million is a big percentage of $1 billion. We know Jay's a billionaire. So to think that that amount would be going from his group, it's kind of like should kind of make you raise an eyebrow. Like, I don't know if this is correct. And you read into it and you realize that it isn't telling the full story. It's actually a little misleading. What's really going on is the Philadelphia school system has decided to utilize the vouch program, school choice program. Here in the South, we know it as something that's not good, to be honest with you. It's just not, it's not good for our public schools. The reason why is because it is an opportunity for private institutions to siphon some of that public school money. If our schools are already underfunded as it is, they already are.
That's it.
So they already have their struggles. So imagine taking money out and giving to other schools that might actually already have resources. and then allowing children to have a choice or parents to have a choice to send their kids there. So there are a lot of problems with this. Before I go into them, Mel, what's your perspective?
Yeah. So like I heard about this and was just like, oh, that's interesting. And then it came out that it was, well, let me also be clear. I have studied this quite a bit because I just published an article for Word in Black about school vouchers down here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I published that article was because there was dark money running in the election.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened was any Republican that went against Greg Abbott's school voucher programs, there was dark money. And I can literally show y'all the different entities that went and supported a challenger to the incumbent.
Mm-hmm.
13 out of the 15 that challenged and that didn't agree with the voucher program were overturned in the runoff, which means that Texas pretty much delivered a win for Greg Abbott in the next legislative session to get school vouchers passed. Because now he has people who have been paid for by educational choice and voucher choice, like lobbying groups that funded their campaign, and now they are going to be expected to vote a certain way when the legislative sessions begin again. So when I saw this, I was like, it kind of looks okay. And then, of course, you dig deeper and you realize that it's pretty much the same thing that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is now they have, I guess, like brought Jay-Z and Rock Nation into it to be the face of it.
The face of it.
Which means they are going to try to get the support of Black and brown people, young people who are going to look at Jay-Z and say, oh, if he supports it, then chances are it's a decent thing.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. GS just said it. There is no other way to fix public schools than to fund public schools.
Mm-hmm.
Public schools across America are already underfunded. I looked this up in in Pennsylvania alone, public schools were underfunded by $5 billion. So you mean to tell me that the fix for that is to say, let's take another $300 million from it and give it to schools who, and let's be clear, most of these vouchers in Arizona, about 79% of the vouchers go to students who have no public school education on their record, meaning they have always been in private schools, meaning their families can already pay for private schools. In Texas, they're going to give people $8,000 vouchers. How much do you think private school costs?
Less than that. More than that? How much?
About $11,000 is the average, and that's for elementary school education. So $8,000 a year, right?
Yeah.
So that means a low-income family has to come up with another $3,000 to cover the tuition.
So it means that they're probably not even going to get it.
That's it. They're not even going to be able to use it.
They're making it. So you mean to tell me that they are purposefully setting it up to where the kids that they're advertising, that they're targeting, that they're helping, again, this is being advertised. We can help all kids who come from all kinds of backgrounds. All these
We're going to prioritize low income.
But to be real, what ends up happening is they say, oh, you can only get a percentage of it. That means you have to cover the rest. So,
and I think about my mother, who probably would have loved to have us in private school, right? But if you walk up to Deborah and say, I'll give you $8,000, she's like, well, the tuition is $11,000, $12,000. Where's the rest? Oh, you got to cover that. There were 3 of us. That means for the rest of the year, she has to come up with another $9,000 to $12,000 to put it. She ain't got it.
Yeah.
She don't have it. Like a lot of these parents don't have it. So it's actually, and this is why we know that it's a scheme to go on and tell very wealthy parents and people who can already afford private school for their children, don't worry, I'll take care of a portion of it. We're going to use public dollars to take care of a portion. And homeschooling is included. So if you decide to homeschool your child, Texas will write you a check for $8,000 and say, use it for, materials, curriculum, books, whatever.
My last point to this is this. When we do take advantage of that, when we start to, it's gonna be some bullshit with it. I just know that. I just know it's gonna be some bullshit.
So say we crowdfund, right? Like, hey, this is to make up the difference for what your baby needs for that tuition, right? Say we actually start getting in on it and we got smart. Black people was like, we're gonna create a $500 million fund every year to make sure our kids families have the difference. We cover the delta, right? they would immediately change it up.
Of
Either
course.
tuition is going to go up, stipend is going to go down, or it'll be some law like, oh, the money has to come directly from your account to cover the rest
Some
of your
stupid
tuition.
ass
It'll be
shit.
some dumb shit to make sure that we can't actually use it, which is why we tell niggas go get AK-47s. Because once niggas have AK-47s, they will ban assault rifles.
They will. Yeah. No. Agreed.
Go get assault rifles, black men. Go get them. You ain't got to take them out on the streets.
Just take some pictures with them.
Yeah,
Like
they'll be banned immediately.
And I guess that's the mentality we got to operate under. We have to operate from the mentality of, if we don't like it, we have to make it work. And once they see that we make it work, they're gonna make issues with it, cause issues with it.
Fearless fun. It's the same thing.
But y'all, so we
Yeah. So
yeah.
Jay-Z, stop what you're doing. And I don't know if this was his car, if this was his, he is not the CEO of Rock Nation.
Right.
Let's be clear. He has a whole business team that handles all. He may go to a board meeting every few months, right? So who knows who actually made this call, but I'm hoping that he and his team, like his brand team, are paying attention to the response of people. And I'm hoping that he does his homework to realize that this is not something he should be part of.
This is not something.
Yeah. Find something else to do.
Find something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, y'all. So we have 2 more topics. Well, briefly, we're gonna go over this topic, and then we're gonna have a fun topic. So briefly, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito, who was one of the key decision makers for overturning Roe v. Wade, he actually ended up being recorded. And his comments showed that he is very much so pro-religion, that he is okay with that part being a part of the decision making. Of course, as a person who sits on the highest court of the land, he can't outwardly say that. He can't outwardly vote that way. If anything, it has to be, law-based and law-backed in terms of his decisions. So we now know basically that his decisions in regards to things that are related to religion, Christian religion specifically, aren't necessarily law-backed. He might say things that make it appear that way, but he is clearly biased in that way. The other giveaway is his wife. So, when we were getting the topics together, one of the things that I put in there was like, she is the what would I say? She is she's on that final boss level of white women, because she has imagine having so much influence, but not really caring that much about it, or just talking so lightly about it as if it doesn't mean anything. So one of the quotes that she was, and this is an example of what I'm saying. She wanted to fly flags over one of their 2 properties, and they probably have others, but whatever.
Sure of it. Yeah.
So, but he told her like, "Hey, I'm a Supreme Court justice. You can't fly this Christian themed flag." And she was just like, I'll be so glad when you're done with this, so we can fully express like
who we are. Yeah.
Our perspective. And it's like, you're treating this, first of all, you're treating this job like you work at U-Haul, like you work at Starbucks or something. And you don't even, like, your privilege is so blinding that you don't even realize that your perspective, what you're trying to do, which is you're trying to send a message, because she was tired of like the gay flags being flown everywhere. So she wanted to have a response flag. She's willing to not even consider your position in the office. I don't even know and I'm pretty sure she knows how serious it is. But again, when you have that amount of privilege, you don't have to care about how deep it is. So I just was like, it's just interesting. In the highest court of the land, we have 2 religious nuts, one who happens to be the wife of a Supreme Court justice. Again, it sounds very similar to Clarence Thomas and Ginny Thomas, but it's just interesting how we have people who have such biased leanings who affect our day-to-day lives. Yeah. So,
and it's we used to have this joke in like corporate America, as Black people in particular, about would you prefer to be in a conference room? Well, you're in a conference room. Would you prefer a white man or a white woman to walk in? And anyone who knew corporate America knew that you preferred a white man to walk in. Because if that white woman got in there, baby, it was going to be a motherfucking problem. And what you realize a lot of the times is that, yes, the man is often the figurehead, but a lot of those ideas are perpetuated by the people that they marry. And so you see Thomas kind of even morph into who he is after getting married. You see, you know, Samuel Alito trying to have some type of voice of reason, saying, hey, I'm a Supreme Court justice. I can't fly this flag. And she's just like, fuck it. Like, I can't wait till you do your due.
She actually, when it was, I forgot what it was. It was some kind of federal law that was changed, and she turned the American flag upside down in disgust with America.
That's what I thought you was gonna say when you started talking about the flags.
No. So that was one of the things that she did, but she wanted to fly another kind of flag.
I didn't know about the other flag. I didn't know about the Christian flag, but I thought you were gonna talk about the upside down flag at first, which is a symbolism, y'all, of like fucking neo-Nazism in America.
So my closing point about this is, we have people in the highest court of the land who themselves, not only are they biased, but their spouses are. And you expect us to believe that these people are operating with the utmost objectivity. We expect them to operate with this level of fairness. And it's like, that's not so. It's not possible. At first when I heard Killer Mike say this, I didn't agree, but now I actually understand what he was saying. So Killer Mike talked about how the best time in America for Black people was right after Reconstruction, right? When we were separate still, but we were gaining some equality. He was like, we were able to build, our own businesses. We were running for offices. We had, representation, all of this. And he was like, with integration came a need for people to feel like respectability politics was a thing. And so your races weren't really able to hide anymore. They had to like play nice with you out front. And at first I was just like, oh, that's dumb. But now that I've been exposed to a lot more of the world, I'm realizing that I actually rather be able to see my races and say, oh, I know who you are. I don't know if the person who's approving my loan and about to give me a crazy interest rate is racist. I don't know if the person that's looking at my potential raise at work is racist and looking at me like, she don't need that much. I don't know if the doctor, did you hear about that shit? They recorded doctors and nurses in surgery calling a Black woman precious and saying that she was terrible. And, this is someone who is supposed to be helping to save someone's life, and you are talking about them this way as they're opened up on your table. Yeah. And so it's kind of scary to think about the fact that we have all these people in the position of power, and I don't know what you're saying behind closed doors. It's one of those things where it's like, we don't not only do we not know what you're saying, but we don't know what you're inclined to do because of what you believe. Because let's be clear here, it's okay to be religious. It's okay to have a Christian faith. It's okay to have a Muslim faith. It's okay to have to have Judaism as your faith. It's okay to have any of these as your faith.
Do you think?
There's no problem with that. The problem comes into play when those things affect how you view other people. And as a result of your quote unquote faith, you feel the need to tell them that they don't have rights to abortion, or you have a right over their land because of your religion.
That's it.
You have a right to kill.
Who they love.
They can't love who they love because of how you believe and how you see things. If it ain't got nothing to do with you,
mind your motherfucking business.
Mind your business, and make it okay for other people to mind their business and stay out of other people's business, as long as it doesn't affect their business, and it shouldn't.
Unless you are hurting someone or yourself, I promise you can do what you want to. And honestly, even if I see you hurting yourself, if we not we not
You
close,
said, I'm still gonna leave you.
I'm like, yeah, like if I saw Gabe doing crack, I'd be like, Gabriel, knock
She'll
it
say
off.
my whole name.
Like I'm going over there, right? But
Jesus.
like I've never understood why people have been so infatuated with other people's business. It don't have nothing to do with me.
You know what? I have no idea. But speaking of business, the business of Bad Boys 4.
Good transition.
The business of Bad Boys 4. For our last topic, we're going to discuss that because a question popped up, and the question was specifically, being that this was a success, this was a box office success, the movie. So have we forgiven Will Smith for what he did to Chris Rock? Have we forgiven him? Has Black America, I don't know. So have we forgiven him, Mel?
I wasn't mad.
Mel said she wasn't tripping in the
listen,
first place.
I'm going to go find the episode where we talked about this after the slap happened. And I will die on this hill. Chris Rock been problematic. Chris Rock been out here cooning. Chris Rock been allowing white comedians to sit in his face and say the N-word and not do nothing. Chris Rock been shitting on black women. Chris Rock been just okay?
On some fuck shit.
And so the thing is, I am not a violent person. I prefer everybody to keep their hands to themselves. Don't get me wrong.
Agreed.
But I learned growing up that sometimes the only thing people understand is a physical altercation. When you have told them time and time again, hey, I don't like that. I don't like this. Sometimes your word's not going to get your point across, especially if they keep playing in your face.
Right.
And sometimes that means that either you take it to the next level or they will continue to do the things that pushes your boundaries and the boundaries that you have clearly set. So the fact that people was like, oh, they shouldn't have done that on TV. Well, he shouldn't have told that joke on TV. Well, he did the shit on live TV. He deserved to get slapped in the mouth on live TV. And I was never upset with Will Smith because honestly, he is one of the people in Hollywood. He's never been problematic. We never had an issue out of him.
Nah.
So for him to even do that, it let me know like, yeah, that was a real moment for him.
So I'll say, in the words of the great philosopher, God bless the dead, DJ K-Slay, he said, disrespect is all they respect. And he's right. Sometimes that's the only thing certain people will respect is disrespect. So it is what it is. And even then, like when you're talking about, you know, as a black man, you know what I'm saying? Like historically speaking, you know, there's been so much foul shit that's happened to black women that we've had to either accept or set on the side and sometimes even watch. Like historically, it's almost in our genetic makeup to be a little more sensitive to what happens to the women that are closer to us, especially in the case of, you know, my wife. You saying something about my wife? So that's that part. But the movie itself, so the movie itself, from my perspective, showed that we were never mad at him. We were never mad at him. You know what I'm saying? There were, and that's how you know, to be honest with you, we really do have that social capital in terms of like, there were people who wanted to ban Will Smith and who wanted to be a certain way towards Will Smith.
White people were tore up. They can see a Palestinian baby be beheaded, but I mean, Will Smith slapping Chris Rock was it for them.
That was it.
They were terrified.
So y'all as a community, you know what I'm saying? I explained it like it was just like seeing two of my drunk uncles get into it and, you know what I'm saying, get to it.
And
you know
one of them always running his mouth. And,
you know, one of them always running his mouth.
And you know how it is at the family, like, well, yeah, the nigga had that coming.
He had that coming. You know, Uncle Lou slapped the shit out of him. Yep. Finally slapped his ass.
Want another drink? Like, you literally just
on to the next one. Is the chicken done?
Right.
But I'll say for Bad Boys, I saw it. I thought it was really good. My favorite part about it was probably Reggie's character arc. I thought it was amazing. I thought that part was done really well. I had a debate with some people about, you know, the next one, and they were talking about, they were like, oh, the Bad Boys next duo could be Reggie and Armando, Will Smith's son.
I had somebody else tell me the same thing.
So let's be clear. I slightly disagreed with them because I personally believe that Reggie doesn't have the star power. Don't get me wrong. Love his character. Love how he developed. Love how he came like what he did in part 4 and how they developed him. But I don't think he has a star power to pull a Bad Boys 5, in my opinion. I just don't think he has it. That's my perspective. But I do think that storyline would be dope, would be fire. If there was a way that Will Smith and Martin Lawrence could share that star role in a sense to where they could be supporting actors. And of course, you know what I'm saying, we can keep Will and Martin a part of it. But overall, I enjoyed it. My favorite Bad Boys is still number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I've been debating people all weekend. Some people saying number 2.
I like number 2 too.
Everybody number 2 over number 1. Number 1 was so dramatic. Like number 1, like part 2 was like
You
Michael
had the
Bay.
Haitians, you had the
You know what I'm saying? It was
true.
like, it was actiony. I mean, number 2 had definitely looked better because they had a better budget. But number 1 was the original one. That's Skinny Martin. That's when he was.
For me, it's like the Rush Hour, like, you know, franchise.
okay.
I'm like, it's just good shit.
Damn.
It's just good shit all around. But hey, so about the Armando Reggie thing, somebody literally said that to me. And at first, I was just like, okay, I did like the way it ended. Like Reggie, first of all, the scene where Reggie got down in that damn house.
He said he killed it.
I said, come on, Marine Corps propaganda. We
I
like it.
didn't even see. Oh,
we
man,
like it. I know, conspiracy theory.
So,
Sorry, I'm wearing the hat today.
I didn't even think about that.
We wearing the hat today.
Let me put
But
my
I mean,
hat.
hey, my boy was getting down. So I was like, okay, we got the chicken thing, which I thought, I went back to our conversation about grilling, right? And I was just like,
That was good layering. That was good.
I like the fact that there was still a
That was a
conversation
cultural. That was a cultural
yes,
layer. That was that we
about
know we got that
at the
part.
barbecue, men are supposed to be on the grill.
And they not letting nobody else on the grill if they feel like they're inexperienced. There's no, you want to experiment with something, you want to, like, no, we doing the grill. You can sit it right there. So
Right.
that
You
was
got to earn the grill.
that was a cultural, that was a real cultural exchange.
I like that. So the way I can see it happening, because I don't see the chemistry between Armando and Reggie, right? For them to be the 2 new bad boys. But I do think that we could see, because Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, they have that chemistry and their personalities are perfect, where it's funny. There are moments where it shows like true friendship between 2 men. You know, they've been in the trenches together. So I think we would still see them at the forefront as the personalities of the movie. But when it came to like a lot of the action shit, I think that would, because they're getting older. We talked about that, right? How the series and the franchise is aging with them. I think a lot of the action stuff would then be transitioned to Armando and Reggie, because both of them are great with like action choreography. Like both of them.
Oh yeah, clear, because Reggie did his own stunts.
That was insane.
That was, he looked like he was,
It was fantastic. So yeah, I'm actually really excited to see what comes next. And I don't know who was in the writer's room, but one thing I appreciated, we were just talking about how like we grow up with certain artists and actors and things like that. And it's always nice to watch them mature and grow with us. And this franchise has certainly matured. Like they're in their 50s now, I believe. And so even the heart attack scene, right? Like it's a very real thing that we need to talk about. Like, hey, you need to change your diet. You need to make sure you're taking care of yourself, because this shit is starting to happen.
It's real
to men at your age.
So that was I agree that was another good point to it. I like the continuity. I'm gonna be honest though. I'm gonna be real with you. I really wished, and this is no disrespect to, I forgot her name, but it was no disrespect to who played Martin's wife. I know her name.
Yeah.
I know her name. And don't get me wrong, she's a phenomenal actress, and she definitely did her thing as a part of
Sheila from all the Tyler Perry movies.
From yes.
Sorry, Sheila.
But I'm gonna find her
Sheila.
specific.
What was her name?
I'm gonna find her specific name.
What's the name with Sheila? Damn, what was her name? Jill Scott was Sheila.
Jill Scott was. So, okay. What?
Damn.
That was Tasha Smith.
Tasha. Okay.
Tasha Smith. Because I had to find her name out of respect, because she is a phenomenal actress. I will say that I would have liked to have seen Teresa Randall as the wife. Not because Teresa Randall was a better actress than Tasha Smith. No, not for that reason. But just for the continuity. I would have liked for Will to have married Gabrielle Union, Martin's sister.
I like the therapist thing. I didn't mind it.
Because that was the therapist from the beginning, from part.
No, when he got shot, the last one.
Oh,
that was his therapist from his physical therapist.
That's true. So yeah, I would have. Those are the only two.
They did the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air thing on us. Like they switched up wife.
They done switched out the wife.
Old Aunt Viv, dark skin Aunt Viv is gone.
So But overall, I really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
I really did enjoy it. So
And Will Smith was never canceled, especially over Chris Rock.
we can end on that one. That's that part.
it.
That part.
All right, y'all. How you feeling? Let's check in.
I'm feeling pretty good. Kind of a little overwhelmed. It's been one of them weeks.
Okay,
But I've been getting a lot of shit done.
that's good.
But the thing, you know how like if you allow yourself to really just focus on like your to-do list,
Mhm.
you'll realize how much it is and how much time it takes. So this is I want to say this is my first full week giving my to-do list the utmost priority.
I love it.
Like I'm making it a priority. Like overworking out, over even eating. To be honest with you, I'll take like some snacks or just like get some light shit or grab
Mhm.
some on the go. But I'm really trying to make my to-do list a priority. My goal is to get used to knocking out my weekly to-do list like completely. Because all my shit be like it just be going over to the next week,
Yeah.
going over to the next week, and it's
Yeah.
like some of this stuff I need to get better about completing.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
It's been good, but overwhelming. What about
Well, congratulations, number one, on being productive. Same. Like there were a couple days, I swear to God, I thought I was on Adderall. I was like, did I take something and I didn't know? But just like productive, and I think it's because the list is filling up, and so I feel like I don't really have time to play around. Like I got to get this article out, I got to get this
Mhm.
video edited, you know, whatever. But yeah, really good, really good. I'm excited. That Juneteenth weekend is getting ready to pop off. So yeah, you got any plans for Juneteenth?
I'm gonna be doing a lot of stuff for Juneteenth. So I have a job that day, that morning. And it's
When you
like
say which morning?
Juneteenth morning.
So next
that
Wednesday.
So that
Okay,
Wednesday,
got
I have a job. So yeah, we'll we'll schedule
Got it.
according to. But I have a job that morning. It's a company that hired me to come and do some just like DJing. They want to have like an outing, like a Juneteenth outing.
Mhm.
So shout out to the companies that are still trying to be inclusive and thoughtful of the people that work for them. So that's one. And then also that night, our alumni, UT Best Black Ex-Students of Texas, we have like a happy hour. So we're just going to be getting together and
Dope.
kicking it. So I'm going to be doing both of those two things. Yeah, so those are the two things that I have to do. And then the next day I have a wedding.
That's dope. And it's a shit ton of stuff going on this weekend.
And then the
too.
weekend has got to be, it's
Yeah.
got to be a lot. Yeah.
So yeah, I have a bunch. B Nation is doing an event Friday night.
Okay.
At South Dallas Cultural Center, and then I'm going over to the Good Soil Forum that they're having here. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna just grab some interviews over there for Dallas Weekly. They got a
Mhm.
Fair Park Juneteenth thing. I'm supposed to
Mm.
stop by and take some pictures at. So
I was going to ask a question, but I'm pretty sure it's going to spur a longer conversation. But we'll talk about it after. But it has to do with Leimert Park.
Leimert Park, yeah. What
Yeah,
about it?
so it was it's like some videos going viral about like the cancellation of y'all's Juneteenth, and then people are blaming
Kendrick
individuals in
thing?
the community. No, it ain't got to do with Kendrick. It was like I had to find the video for you, but they were just basically saying like the people who quote unquote came in and who were supposed to be like connected to all these sponsors and all these other kind of people are like pulling the plug, and they're trying to make it to where it's like no event, but it's like the people who from there like, oh no, we finna still do some shit.
So last year before last, I went to the LA Juneteenth event, and that shit was lit as fuck. The one
Yeah.
I think it was 2 years ago,
Yeah.
the one at Leimert Park. So I heard something. It was because my friend, I think, was supposed to perform there. I thought they had changed the date, and it was because Kendrick Lamar was doing something in the city, and they didn't want it to be on the same day. So now, if they've canceled it completely, I didn't know about it. But
look into it. It's,
Well-
it's because the video actually shows a dude like kind of talking about it, and then it's like a dude who walks by who's clearly disgruntled about what happened,
yeah,
and he's like pissed, and he was like, "Yeah, this some bullshit on 40 Crip." This is like he was definitely upset, and I don't know. It just seemed like one of them situations in which corporate powers was trying to do some shit,
and that's the issue.
and the shit.
That's the real issue. So, like, the first year that Juneteenth it was the year after Juneteenth became a holiday, Leimert Park did their first huge event, and it was amazing. It was incredible. And so I knew, and I'm seeing it here in Dallas too, like it's becoming too commercialized.
Yeah.
So like you have people who are trying to get in on the money rather than like actual the celebration of what Juneteenth is supposed
Right.
to be about. And so yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah.
I could see it becoming a thing. But one thing that you should know about Leimert Park, the same way that Oak Cliff or Pleasant Grove or West Dallas, like they gonna put some shit on. Somebody gonna be on
Yeah.
the grill, like, and people gonna show up and do some shit. Like Leimert Park will have a Juneteenth event. It just may not be like sponsored by the city or anything.
And
like
that's
that.
actually better.
Yeah.
So in a lot of times, it's actually better that way.
sucks.
So,
But yeah. All right, y'all.
All right, y'all. Peace, love, like, follow, subscribe.
All of that.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to our man Kenny holding us down. We
Always.
appreciate you, brother. And until next time, love, peace, and happiness.
All that. Bye, y'all.
Peace.
Still wouldn't be enough. And they are lucky that what black people are looking for is equality and not revenge.